Guys, here we are, MMA UK News, Stoomboy as always. So here joined with my co-host for the Stoom and Alfie show, Alfie Binion. Alfie, good to have you back.
Good to be back, as always, you know. What else would we be doing on a Sunday night, you know?
Did you get much hate after the last one?
Did you get much hate?
I mean, I always get hate. I always get hate, man. But listen, that's what we do. That's what we do. We enjoy this shit. Do you know what I mean? So we're joined tonight by obviously a good friend of MMA UK News. Do you know what I mean? One of, in my eyes, one of the top coaches in Europe, possibly the world. I mean, as I said, definitely he's got an absolute stable of animals over at higher level. And he's got pros, amateurs, not just MMA, jiu-jitsu. He's obviously got Muay Thai, kickboxing, and loads of different things going on at higher level. So it's definitely a place to be. I mean, if you're looking to up your game in any aspect of martial arts, then you definitely need to be heading to higher level. They've got some of the best coaches around. So yeah, James Doolan. It's been a busy time for you over the last few weeks, James.
It has been, mate. We've been busy with a lot of fights. So starting with Cage Warriors back in Glasgow, and then UFC in Rio, then BMF there, and then we've got, what have we got? We've got that K-Stage show coming up soon, and PFL in Newcastle the week after. So we're on for a bit busy spell right now.
Yeah. Are you going to get to Cassius? You'll be at Cassius, yeah? PFL is the week after, yeah?
The week after the die, so I'll be up there. I've got Lorenzo and Kunle on, and we Stephen, obviously. So I'll be up with you guys.
Yeah. I mean, I was impressed with Stephen again, as usual, as always. Do you know what I mean? But not just Stephen. I mean, there was quite a few of the guys on that night as well. At BMF, and all of them put on a show, regardless of the result. Every single one of them came out, and they all loved it. They all looked like they were enjoying themselves, as higher level fighters always do, James.
I think they boys see it for what it is. It's amateur fights, you know what I mean? They're not trying not to put the weight of the world on their shoulders at that level. Still trying to figure out what guys are going to maybe think about doing that for a career at that point, or what guys are just going to be doing it as a hobby, or do you know what I mean? Or just figure out what kind of, how much of their life they want to give to it, type of thing. But they're definitely enjoying competing, which is good.
Yeah. And that was all brilliant to see them. Always brilliant to see higher level guys, male and female, step out and obviously go out there and kick some ass. So it's always good to see. So yeah, we're going to be talking tonight. I know last time we did the difference, Alfie, between male and female, because obviously there was a back and forward between Gordon Ryan and Ffion Davies. So we talked about the difference in pay. Obviously, we agreed that women should be paid the same amount as men if women put the same amount of bums on seats that some men do. Or if women put more bums on seats, then fucking give them more money. Do you know what I mean? So that was we agreed with that. So we definitely agreed with both sides of the argument. So tonight we're going to be talking,
isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It is, you know, you're paid on your merit, you know, and like you were saying, that's it. It's if you bring more, you deserve more. It's as simple as that. If you bring less, you deserve less.
Yes. So tonight we're going to be talking about gradings. Gradings it's a touchy subject in a lot of places. Everybody that does jiu-jitsu, I mean, you could be the person that's getting graded, and people in the gym will be like, "How the fuck did he get graded? How did I not get graded? Because I'm better than him in the gym." Or do you know what I mean? Or you might be that person saying the same thing. How did he get a belt and I didn't? So grading's always one that it's always a subject that comes up all the time whenever anybody's graded. We see it on social media, people putting their belts up. Some people, and again, I got this from my early days when I first started jiu-jitsu. I started at Gracie Barra. Now, the way Gracie Barra worked was a structure. So you had, obviously, your white to blue could be anytime up to from 10 months to a year. And again, this is their structure, 10 months to a year. Blue belt to purple belt was about a year and a half to 2 years. Purple to brown was a year and a half, and then brown to black was a year and a half as well. So that was their structure. This is when they tell you this is when you should be getting a belt. But then they also explained to me was you can get a belt for various different reasons. One, you could be good in the gym. One, you could be promoting jiu-jitsu. So as in like social media and all that kind of stuff, do you promote jiu-jitsu in a positive light? It could be competition results. You're out there competing, competition and all that kind of stuff. Or 4, it could be time served. Now, time served in my eyes is absolutely bullshit. Do you know what I mean? So you shouldn't be getting a belt for being time served. So I don't know you, James, what's your structure? I mean, obviously you highly respected black belt, long standing black belt. What would your kind of, do you have a criteria or?
I don't. I definitely don't follow that time served one either. It's too. It's not individualised enough for me. We've got. So I've been a black belt for 9 years next year. I never gave any black belts out until I was a second degree, which was pretty much the only IBJJF guideline that I followed. I didn't promote any of my guys to black belt until I'd been a black belt for 6 years.
Yeah.
I don't. I have a weird outlook on belts. I have guys train with me, and I'll tell this to them weekly if I need to, where they'll just never be black belts. Do you know what I mean? They can train every night of the week and stuff like that, but if they're not getting better and they're not well rounded and stuff like that, and they've not got a depth of knowledge about the subject, then I just won't grade them. And I've had guys leave gym for that and go elsewhere just for the sole purpose of jumping belts and stuff like that. But I don't have a massive criteria with it. It's very individualised for me. So I have guys come in, I'll see what they're working with early. In terms of, they'll normally have not very much knowledge, obviously, at white belt, but what they've got physically, their attitude and stuff like that. And then it's just about how they progress as a person for me. If they're coming on leaps and bounds, they'll come up through the grades and stuff like that. I will judge it on how they're hanging with guys with similar belts or belt levels above and stuff like that. I'm big on the quickest way you'll get a belt in my system is probably going to be competing. So yeah. The quickest black belt I think I gave out was Cammy Donnelly, and it was like 9 years. He won everyone at purple belt that he entered. He took a silver medal in the ADCC Euro trials there. He was quarterfinals the year before. He's beat multiple black belts and stuff like that. He's had multiple matches on Grapple Fest and stuff like that. And that was still 9 years for him. I remember getting some backlash for giving him a purple belt maybe about 4 years in. And he went to the British Open about 2 weeks after getting his purple belt and tapped everybody. I think he had 5 matches that weekend and ran through them all. And he'd been a purple belt for 2 weeks. But again, I can see how much he's putting into it. The hours he's putting in the mat. He's doing stuff outside the class. He's studying the art outside the class.
Yeah,
I can see black belts for other gyms coming in and my blue and purple belts giving them trouble and stuff like that. So to have a syllabus, I think it's doing the art of disservice straight away. It turns into, I came from a traditional martial arts background, so I had a syllabus for my taekwondo black belt as a kid. Then the same with karate, I had to learn katas and shit like that. And it becomes a wee bit like when you're in high school where you're just remembering stuff to pass a test.
Yeah.
And the test doesn't mean fuck all in practicality. So my belts are all giving it on either your ability to, or definitely your ability to perform the movements under pressure real time, no recite them. Yeah. And give me 10 different fucking sweeps and shit like that. Competition, obviously, I know everybody has to compete, but it's if you want to fast track up through the belts, then the proof's in the pudding. If you're getting into a white belt competition and you're doing really well and stuff like that, few times you're probably going to be ready for a blue belt and stuff like that. If you're entering a belt colour competition and you're not winning, you're probably not ready for the next belt.
Yeah.
And then obviously the knowledge side of stuff. The other thing I do with all my black belts, I make teach. So when they're brown belts, just before I make them grade up to black, they'll teach classes at mine as well. And I'll just tell them, give me some passing tonight, or give me some sweeps, or you know what I mean, and put them on the spot. And again, it's just about for me, it's just about keeping the standard high. Do you know what I mean? I've been in jiu-jitsu since 2001. At the time when I started as a white belt, I had to travel into Glasgow to learn off of Scott McVeigh, who's a blue belt at the time. And I loved the fact that the belts were hard to get compared to what I'd done before. That's one of the things that I really admired about jiu-jitsu. And the fast forward to 2024, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu became taekwondo. Unfortunately, it's so far removed to what it was when I started it.
Let me ask James, because obviously you talked about Cammy Donnelly there, especially. I mean, obviously we know how good Cammy Donnelly is. The stuff that he's done absolutely phenomenal. Would you say it's strict? How to say that? It's hard to get a belt off of you. Do you know what I mean? Are you strict with the belts purely because, as you mentioned there, do you know what I mean, you want to see a few different things from them?
I think so. I think definitely past purple belt.
Yeah.
Like I said before, there is guys in our gym who will never be a black belt, but they'll get the blue belt for having a grasp of the fundamentals and stuff like that. And then when their game starts to take a bit of shape and stuff like that, I can grade them maybe up to purple. But if you look at the guys I've graded to black belt, there's Cammy, obviously, there's Stevie Ray, Craig McIntosh. It's all guys that compete and win against black belts regular. And they're on a variety of different shows, and they've got completely different games, all of them. Like Cammy's exceptional good leg locker. Craig McIntosh has obviously got he's very good with the head and arm stuff, the Darcy's and the necktie stuff. And then Stevie Ray's got like a kind of game halfway in between them. But I think it's better to be too hard to give a belt than too easy. It's always better to get them at late than too early, I think.
Yeah, definitely. You picked up on like quite a few things, and like I'm a purple belt myself, you know, and it's things that you start looking at as you progress yourself. You're like we initially said, you know, you're like, well, why is that guy getting that, or what's that? And you know, it's very interesting to hear your take on it because it answers a lot of the questions I already had, which is it's like Big Dan said on a podcast as well, didn't he? Out of Texas, he said like it's a personal journey, you know, and like you said, it's good to hear that. Some people will never get there, unfortunately, but sometimes you got to give them that hard truth as well, don't you? You know, like some people need to understand that sport's not for them, or getting to that level in that sport isn't for them as well. And it's a tough conversation, but we all know them. And especially with what you're seeing as well, you know, like it's better to be notorious for not giving belts than it is for giving belts, because it's your name at the end of the day above the door, isn't it? It's your name, it's your gym, and what you want to be seen as the guy with all the easy brown belts. You know what I mean? Like that's not what you want to know. It's not what you want to see, is it? You know, so
yeah. You see these guys they're giving their belts as well, either sort of an insecurity so that people will not leave them. I'll just give them a belt, or they maybe need somebody to take a class. I'll just give them a belt. I'll make it look better when they take the class. And once you start getting into reasons like that where you're dishing out belts, it's not going to preserve the art very, very well. And again, going back to the start, coming for traditional martial arts where people are getting black belts in certain things in 2 and 3 years and shit like that, and just for turning up in pain, pretty much. One of the things I liked about jiu-jitsu at the start was you're in this for the long haul if you want that black belt. And back in the day as well, it was if you came across a black belt in the UK, especially in Scotland, 2001 to 2010 or whatever, they were always excellent. Like you were put in your place for them. Do you know what I mean? They would show you levels to the game that at that point in time we weren't aware of. It's a bit different now because there's a lot of good players in Scotland, a lot of good black belts and stuff as well. But the flip side of that is there's a lot of guys promoted far too quick. And they come into gyms and they can't hold their own. We were originally an SPG gym when I was in Glasgow with the Dinky Ninja stuff. And when Matt Thornton came over one year, he came out, I think 2001, 2002, 2003. But his whole thing was, if I give you a belt, you'll be on the mat, any mat in the world, and you represent that belt well. So if you're a blue belt, you're a blue belt level, any mat in the world I can put you on. And that kind of always stuck with me. Where I didn't want to like fast track somebody and then they go away to visit Brazil and they get smashed in bits after guys are in grade. And I noticed that when I'm travelling about. So anytime I'm away, I'll always seek somewhere out to train. And at first, when I was younger, it was so I could train myself, but eventually it was so I could have a look at how these guys are coaching and the levels and stuff like that, just more for a kind of coaching or business perspective of running the gym. And I think, again, it's you don't want to go into some other gym in Rio and be wearing a coloured belt and you're getting smashed off. Like, there's always going to be the outliers, always, but there's been purple belts beat the shit out of me when I went to Rio and stuff like that. But generally, you should be able to hold your own at that belt level.
Yeah. There's
and you know as well, when you're talking about competing as well and you're talking about holding your own, is you see these competitions now when they struggle, they're merge brackets. So, you know, you'll get like blacks and browns are quite often merged, which the skill gap's obviously smaller and smaller the higher up you go, but sometimes purple belts will eke into there, and you really don't want to be known as the gym where, you know, a purple belt got merged up into your category and he's smashed a black belt in a competition you've trained for. So again, like you're saying, you know, depending on that sort of thing, you've got to be very, very careful of, like, it's nice to promote people and we want to do that, and you know, you want to give people that like badge to say, like, look, you've been here, you've done this, you've done that, but that competition aspect's always there, and you can't delude someone. You can't let someone think they're a level and then they're gonna, people are people, aren't they, you know, and you're going to put yourself down for a competition and get absolutely smashed. And it's embarrassing, like, you know, we've seen it in like competitions myself previously where people are of a level and on paper they're of that level, but the reality's just not there, like, you know.
Yeah, that's where we've seen. I mean, James mentioned Cammy Donnelly. Cammy Donnelly is probably one of the best jits competitors coming out of Scotland at the moment, right? And he, since his early days, like James talked about purple belt and so on, he was out there beating black belts and stuff like that. And I remember he went to the trials with I think it was the year he got injured, and he was doing absolutely brilliant. I think his first match submitted a high level black belt, and then he did the same at the last trials here when he got the silver, and he was just running through people. He was just absolutely running through people. And this kid's been doing it for years. Do you know what I mean? And as I said, a lot of people outside of Scotland, a lot of people didn't really know much about him. Do you know what I mean? And then when he came into like the trials and so on, he was doing so well in the trials. They were all like, "Oh yeah, Cammy Donnelly just all of a sudden appeared." And you're like, "This kid's been around for years." Do you know what I mean? And then you talk about other people like Mark McQueen. Mark McQueen is a blue belt, going and tapping Ross Nichols. Yeah, albeit there was a weight difference, right? There was a big weight difference, but as a blue belt going out and tapping a high level black belt, do you know what I mean? And then got promoted to purple belt because do you know what I mean? He had to get promoted. Do you know what I mean? Because he was doing that in the gym. He was beating the shit out of people in the gym. He was not in a bad way, just obviously training wise, and then doing it in competition. So they promoted him a purple belt, and then obviously he got his brown belt and so on. So he's been promoted, I would say, between blue and brown pretty quickly, but there's a reason for that. Do you know what I mean? So there is exceptions to the rule. There is, do you know what I mean? There is certainly exceptions to it. Scott Ramsey, obviously Alfie's coach, just coming in saying the same as you, James. He would never promote prematurely. It's diluting BJJ. So 100%.
That's it. Like I don't know if you guys done traditional martial arts before, but the belts and stuff and that.
I did a little bit of karate with Ed Gillespie. He's very well known up this way. Did a little bit and picked his brain, like, and again, it's like you're saying, you know, the traditional side following the syllabus, like you said before, it's remembrance, it's remembering this is what I do when I say this word, not this is what I need to do when someone does this to us.
Yeah.
And that's the...
And going back to what you
were saying, under pressure, you know, like that.
Alfie's just getting some technical difficulties. Sorry, James, on you go, James.
Just going back to what you were saying about Mark and stuff there, like the mats don't lie. Do you know what I mean? If you're turning up to the competitions and you're beating, regardless of the grade, if you're in the advanced bracket, no gain stuff, and you're beating the guys, or in Cammy's case, I think the first year he beat the Polish guy Willik, who had won the Euro trials before then. Last year he beat McNally, who had won them the previous year before and stuff like that. The truth's on the mats, you know what I mean? Whether it's in competition or in your gym every night of the week, or when guys come from other clubs to visit and stuff like that, the mats don't lie. You just have to be fucking brutally honest with people. And again, for me, the quickest way to get through the grades would be to compete. And in the case of guys like Mark McQueen, it's undeniable that he's at that level because he's beating everybody else who's at that level. So you can either fill them head full of bullshit and fairy tales and stuff like that, and let them think they're at a level that they're not, and just belittle your product, or you can send them into the competition and they'll find out soon enough what kind of level they're at quite quick.
Yeah. See, I remember so I was just going to say, like, my journey, right? The way, as I said, I started off at Gracie Barra, as everybody knows. I remember getting my blue belt after 10 months, right? And then literally 4 or 5 weeks later, I was in, remember BJJ 24/7 did the Scottish over in Meadowbank. I remember going in there, and it was first blue belt comp, only been a blue belt for 4 months, been training less than a year. And I went out and I won. I remember winning that competition. And that year, as a blue belt, was winning loads of different competitions, but I was in the gym 5-6 days a week. I was training 5-6 days a week. I was training in different gyms, like down south and all that. I would go down and just wherever I went, I would take a gi. I would travel, the same as you were saying, James, just go to a gym. And that's what I was doing. So as a blue belt, I remember being a very good blue belt once I started getting into it. And then I remember moving gyms. Had I stayed at Gracie Barra Glasgow, I'd have been a black belt now. I'd have been probably near enough a coral belt, right? But I obviously I made the move, and when I went to Marcus's, and again, it's that thing, if you go to a new gym, it's like almost starting from the very beginning again at that belt, right? So obviously when I went to Marcus's, I think I'd been at Marcus's for, I think it must have been like, 4 or 5 years, and then I got a purple belt. But as I said, I'd been a very, very good blue belt because of everything I'd done competition-wise. And then obviously purple belt, I've not really trained as much as I wanted to, so I wouldn't say I'm a good purple belt. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near a good purple belt. I was a better blue belt than I am a purple belt.
You fell into exactly where I was talking. You know, you're saying about when belt levels come and visit your gym, but I like to gym slut as well, as you know, and it's very nice to be confident in what your coach has done for you and give you a certain level. So then you go to these other gyms and you hang really well with, in some gyms, you know, like their level, you hang really well with it, you know, and that's always really good to have, because imagine, again, like you says, you're traveling for work or you're traveling wherever, and you pop into a gym because you want to train, and you go in at like whatever level and you get made a fool of, you know. And it's that, as a coach, you've got that responsibility to protect whoever you're giving that belt to and not fill them full of rubbish, you know. And as you were saying, like with Mark and his competition, you know, beating a black belt at the time, I'd done the same. And I'm in the same boat as you now, Stu, where I felt as though I was much better as a blue because I beat a black belt at blue. And I've started competing again purple, and it's a whitewash. It's a different level, but it's because this is what happens, is the levels change, you know, and it's keeping that consistency, isn't it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the game itself, I mean, it's constantly evolving. We always talk about evolution of jiu-jitsu. I mean, you look at like some of the blue belts now. Don't get me wrong, some of the blue belts now are out there beating black belts, but the blue belts now would beat the majority of black belts from 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like the majority of them. Do you know what I mean? Some white belts, you'd be looking at some white belts who would be beating black belts from 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So it's scary how quickly everything moves. And as I say, for me, being a good blue belt, and then only fast forward a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and the game had changed so much, certainly in competition. So so it's scary. I mean, I'd say that some of these kids nowadays, I mean, I talk about some of your kids, James. Some of your kids are seeing jiu-jitsu comps all the time, and do you know what I mean? That's scary. I mean, you look at like, and again, I'm going to like Stephen Clancy, for example, because I remember seeing Stephen Clancy as a 14-year-old in jiu-jitsu competitions, and he was as confident then as he is now, walking in and being like, "I'm coming in, I'm going to win this," and he would come in and he would win the competition and then get his pictures and then be away with the gold medal. So,
but this is what we touched on before as well, though, isn't it? You know, is we're now into a new era of jiu-jitsu where you've got kids coming through who are now 18, 19, 20, 21. They've been doing it since they were knee high. And I think that's the big difference, you know, is obviously as the sport progresses and eyes get on it, you're going to have kids doing it from, like I says, knee high, and they're going to be, by time they're competing, it's a different level, you know. And one of my favorite stories is from Scott, my coach, is he'll see about when he first started training, they had to get DVDs from the States, watch it, and then practice with other white belts, because that's all you had, you know, like you touched on yourself, James. You know, there was no one of a coloured belt level around. And the people who were coloured belts were the only ones that there were, and the only way they could train was to, again, find these DVDs and whatever they could grasp. Whereas now we've got everyone's got like a TikTok account or whatever, and Instagram Reels, like we talk about all the time, and everyone's got techniques at their fingertips, and everyone's got someone to train with, you know. So the sport's just going to go new and new heights all the time. And like we touched on last time, as soon as money comes into it and people can do it truly full time, where they're not doing it full time but coaching, which is fine, but actually really training full time, that'll see a new huge jump as well, I think.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's some horrible stories. I mean, I remember like mass belt givens. James, what's the most belts you've given in one go?
Maybe 3 or something. We don't have grading days at my gym, so I don't charge you. See, you're paying membership, and then suddenly I'm like, we're doing a grade and it's 15 quid.
Yeah.
Everybody has to pay thumbs up and shit like that. We don't do that. You've seen me getting Cammy Donnelly's belt. I was like, right, there's your belt, well done. We don't have weapons. I'm very low key on the speeches. I don't have everybody up and fucking doing a bit like I'm the best man at a wedding or some shit. It's basically like there's your belt. You're doing great. Keep it up. And stuff like that. But I don't think I've ever, maybe like the biggest grading we've probably done has maybe been like 4 blue belts at the same time, and maybe 1 higher grade, like a purple or brown, like that. We've never had like we done 3 black belts at one time last year with Kieran Reid, Stevie Ray, and Neil Pollock, and that was a big deal for us because it was like the most guys we'd promoted up to that level at one time. But I don't have a like 4 gradings a year type of shit, because not everybody's going to fall into that time frame.
Yeah.
And they're not paying me the minute they start giving me extra money for a belt, they're buying the belt. So for me, it is, again, like I said at the start, it's when that person's ready for the belt, I'll give them it, and it might be in front of one of the evening classes where there's 60 people there at the end of the class, or it might be they're in training with a couple of other guys on the mat space, or do you know what I mean? It's not like I don't want to make it like traditional martial arts, like I keep going back to that, but to what I experienced with that as a kid, on it, kind of early years as a teenager and stuff like that, what attracted me to jiu-jitsu and MMA ultimately was it was completely different for that. It wasn't a guy standing at the front desk taking your name and then stamping a wee license book and making sure your insurance was up to date and all that shit, and then telling you if you take 3 PTs with me, you'll be able to get your blue belt in 3 weeks and stuff like that. Is come in and train.
Yeah.
Show me that you're interested. Stay consistent, and let me see you getting better. And then if I don't notice it one of the or two of the other coaches will see it. Do you know what I mean? And they'll come and say to me, look, this guy's ready for his boys, just done this. His game's doing this, whatever, and I'll take it from there. But it's important for me to stay away from the kind of money side of grading as possible, which is ultimately what you can see happening right now. It's people are selling out. They're diluting the sport to sell belts and stuff like that. So I'm not into that, like mass gradings, like you say, and stuff like that. It just depends when that person's ready, if they're ready.
See, that's the way it should be. I mean, as I said, I remember that one instance, the one infamous instance in Scotland where it was 27 blue belts in 1 month, 21 in the one day. And Alfie, I don't know if you'd heard about this, but I mean, it was like, do you know what I mean, just giving out belts to everybody. Everybody got a blue belt. And it was, it was on Reddit. It went all over the place. Do you know what I mean? It definitely went viral. And it was a mass grading. And I mean, there was one guy in particular had got a belt who had only went into the room where they did a test, like a blue belt test, right? So basically you had a partner, you had to show X amount of moves, I think it was like 5 sweeps, an armbar from top, an armbar from bottom, and a few other things. I think it was like X amount of moves. So, and there was odd numbers. I think it was like 13. So they said to this one boy, he'd only been training like 4 or 5 months. Do you mind coming up and being a training partner for someone? You're not going to get a blue belt, but do you know what I mean? You'll be a training partner. Yeah, no problem at all. Obviously, a good training partner. Hour later, everybody in the room, do you know what I mean, came down. 14 of them all came down with a blue belt on. And I remember this kid coming up to me and saying, Stu, I just got my blue belt, man. And I'm like, I thought you were only going up to... He's like, yeah, he forgot, gave me a blue belt as well. So this kid came to Marcus's and he basically said to Marcos, can you watch me for this class, see if I'm blue belt level, and then let me know what to do. And after the class, Marcos went to him and said, yeah, take the blue belt off, put the white belt back on. Do you know what I mean? So, and Marcos does that. I don't know if that's something you would do, James, but Marcos does that where if someone comes in and they ask the question, Marcos will say to them, well, it's your belt, but if it was me, I would take the belt off. Do you know what I mean? And I would put a white belt back on.
It's again protecting yourself though, like I brought up before, and being a responsible coach, which is exactly what it sounds like Marcos is doing, is do you really want this lad to come in, or lass, or as a blue belt to come into his gym with his blue belts and then be demoralized? And then what does that say for the sport? You're going to come into another gym and you're going to get shit on. And it's just not right, and you do see it, and it's sad, you see, so like when you see this happen, I see it more with white belts who have stripes. So like striped white belts will come into a gym and they'll see like other striped white belts and they'll be like, well, I should be better than him, but they're not. And that's where I see it more often. You don't really see it as coloured much where I go and train. Everywhere I go and train, luckily, is quite a high level, shout out all the gyms that have had us over, but it's the white belts where you find that now. But again, it's protecting this person, so this person's getting a blue belt through doing 5 sweeps on someone, which, to be honest, like, you've got your go-to moves and you get somewhere you don't. If someone told me to do 5 sweeps now, I'd be like, I can do a scissor sweep. I can maybe do a butterfly sweep, but top of my head, without someone like moving around and giving us like, those cues that you look for before you do a different type of sweep. I'm not going to be able to, and names and stuff as well, talking about traditional martial arts, like people will tell me like Japanese words for outside, and I'm like, a what? A what? Like, I'm like, that's the chicken wing, and that's a reverse chicken wing. Like, you know what I mean? That's it blows your mind, like, But I like just seeing with that one.
Well, that one was as I say, 21 in one day, 27 within a full calendar month. Do you know what I mean? And when that happened,
wouldn't even work it wouldn't even work if you had like a beginner's class and they're all done all the same amount of sessions, because people have lives, like, you know, like there's not going to be even a chance that you've got 21 people who's came 3 sessions a week for 2 years.
Well,
like,
remember Gracie Barra.
You know, you can't even justify it.
Gracie Barra do the card system though. They do as James was talking about, the attendance card to come in at the start of the class. Everybody gets their card marked or at the end of the class. They bring the card in, hand the card over. The card, while you're in doing the class, the card's getting marked up to show the class, so they can see Monday to Friday, every single week, every single month for X amount of time. Do you know what I mean? So
when you get 5, you get a free coffee, and then when you get 10, you get some finger tea. That's all. But attendance doesn't work. Like we said before, attendance just does not work, because you get one person in the gym who'll come, and they'll do 4 rounds on an open mat, where you'll get one person who'll do 10 rounds on an open mat. They've learned twice as much easy, and then depending who you've picked, if you've picked 10 rounds with like coloured belts and you've picked 4 rounds at white belts, you're not learning as much. You're not, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And being switched on when you're at class, like listening and wanting to ask questions and actually really thinking about it, and you can tell when you've like taught a technique or you've showed a technique within training, you can tell if someone's brought it down, like, you know, if they've really looked into it and they're really starting to think well. And then they'll ask a question, they're like, well, what if I do it this way? And it's like, my go-to answer is like, try it, find out, you know, fuck around, find out.
Well, there's Scott just coming in again, just same as you, James. Scott comes. Scott's been doing this for a long, long time, similar to yourself. Gradings are a money maker for McDojos. We do live training every session, so we should know where our students are at, obviously, whether it be him or other coaches within the gym, and then just present the gym when they are ready at no cost. So, because again, the gym, and you know this, James, some gyms out there will charge 10 or 15 quid for a grading day, where everybody gets a stripe or everybody gets a belt or whatever.
And just if you're one of the legit guys in that group and you see everybody getting their belts, it makes your belt worth less. Do you know what I mean? It's meant to mean something to you personally, and then it should be gauged on your progression. And everybody progresses different. How can you give 24 belts on the same day? Like, if they all learn at the same rate, because people don't learn. I hit a patch at purple belt where my game just slowed right down. I was real busy with MMA and I was looking at different things, a lot of cage wrestling and stuff like that, and my game just kind of stagnated for a wee bit, just because my attention shifted. I think I sat in purple belt for about 7 years, and then when I stopped competing in MMA, I was like, right, now I'm going to spend more time in the gi. I'm going to put my focus back in that, is to keep my head straight. And I think I got my blue belt at the same time as Paul McVeigh and Gary Christie.
Yeah.
And they're like a full 3.5 years ahead of me now. So their third degrees, when I get my third, they'll be due their fourth type of thing. Do you know what I mean? So, but they accelerated so much quicker than me, even though we're probably training the same hours. They were getting more attention outside the gym. They were watching more like content, like you were saying about the DVDs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
we were doing all that shit. So people learn at different rates, and you need to take that into account, or you're just selling out.
Yeah. What about the thing as well? Because obviously, again and again, I know this through when for me coming up through jiu-jitsu and different gyms, some coaches will give a stripe to motivate someone. So see if they're looking demotivated or it looks like they're potentially going to leave, let me give them a stripe. Because there's nothing better than getting a stripe on your belt or a new belt to give you that little bit of a boost. Would you say that's a thing as well? Would that be something you would ever do?
With me, I don't. I've just got them say to somebody, see if they need motivated, that's part of my job as a coach. I've got them say to them, like, you having problems with this? This is looking good. I have guys come to me and they'll say, what do I need to do to get to this next belt? And I'll go, let's look at this, but we'll pay attention to this, enter this competition if need be. But the other guy who coaches jiu-jitsu at mine is a guy called Danny Gray. So he specialises mostly in gi stuff. Now he stripes his guys That's on him. Like I've gave him his black belt as a first degree now, so he will stripe it. I think he stripes up to purple belt, but once you're a purple, we kind of view purple belt as it's a senior grade. So once you're purple, you're what you were saying earlier. Purples, brown, blacks. There's no much difference, especially competition purple belts. By that level, you should be fucking dangerous. Do you know what I mean? You should not be an easy round for anybody. And that's something we kind of push for. So I know Danny does. He'll stripe white and blue. Once you're purple, you're brown and black, and that's you. That touches
into what I was going to ask, because we don't get stripes for coloured belts, and I think that's personally a better way to do it. I think it kind of, you see it in competitions where someone will be a 4-stripe blue or whatever, and it kind of, like for me, when it makes it different again, whereas I don't think once you've got the skills, so when you're blue belt, you've got the skills, you know what each position is, and you know where and whereabouts you are. You shouldn't then need to have like another like ticky box or another special start to say you progress in your game. You've got to be, I see it to a lot of people all the time, you're an adult, you've got to be in charge of your own training, and we've all identified purple belt as that teenage years, isn't it? Where like I'm having a rough time at the moment. I'm nearly 2 years into my purple. Stoom, you said you were rough, and James, you said you focused into the MMA as well, and you had a rough time there as well. But you're responsible for yourself, and you know what you need to do. And yes, it's good to get guidance, but to get a stripe in a coloured belt, for me, it's just, I don't think it's indicative of anything. It's not progressive,
See, I know the grip house don't give stripes out, James. So they just belt to belt to belt. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think in my eyes, Alfie, right, a stripe is, do you know what I mean? It lets you know that the coach is watching and you're progressing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and right, okay, I've got 1 stripe, right? I'll keep pushing. I'll get my 2nd stripe. I'll keep pushing. So it gives, like me, like if I'm the one getting the stripe, it just gives me that thing that I know what I'm doing it right. So whatever I'm doing it right. Let's keep it going. Let's get better and better and better. Do you know what I mean? And I do the same thing as well. I mean, Marcos, my coach, and Scott's the same. I know that, where the students will go to you guys or them guys and say, how am I getting my next belt? What do I need to do? Do you know what I mean? As James said, being a great coach, do you know what I mean? It's James's job to say, right, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. Let's work on this, let's work on that. So, but the belt thing, I think stripes, in my eyes, is important. Do you know what I mean? I know there's a lot of gyms don't give out stripes at all, purely because, do you know what I mean? It's some people see stripes as a hindrance, more of a hindrance than anything else, because then you're just chasing stripes on your belt. Do you know what I mean? So, but
how many times have we seen that? How many times have we seen that with blues, though? Is that focus then becomes a belt, not actually getting better within the sport? And how many times do you see someone finally get that blue belt, have achieved that goal, and they don't have the sensibility? Would it be like the rightness in your mind to set your own further goal going forward? And for me, like, not receiving those stripes, in my experience, is, you're an adult. Like, if you want to progress, you've got to ask a hard question, and then you've got to take that on as well. You really deep down, the holes in your own game. You know what you struggle with, especially when you get to a certain level. Again, especially coloured level, white belt, it's very hard to determine what you're struggling with. So the stripes on there is a very good indication. I think that's right, especially for how long it can take some people to get that first coloured belt. And I think it's that you bang on with that indication. But I think as soon as you've been awarded a coloured belt, for me, you've got to have that sensibility to take control of yourself and know your own games. You know what you're doing wrong. You know what you're doing right. You know what you could work on. You could ask that question, like I'd ask my coaches, like, I'm struggling with this exact position, not I'm struggling with this general subject, because then, you're not really looking at yourself,
Yeah. What about I mean, there's a lot of things to do with the grading. I mean, obviously, money. Asking for money to give someone a belt is just ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've always thought that. Do you know what I mean? We talked about the motivation. Do you know what I mean? People getting stripes or even getting a belt for motivation. Competition, in my eyes, it's well, it could be looked at one of two ways because, and James, you'll know this in your gym, you've got the hobbyist, the person that just comes in, that comes in to train in the gym, and then you've got the guys who are out competing. So obviously, again, two different paths. Do you know what I mean? But in my eyes, if you're a competitor, it's for me to get a belt, I want to get it because I'm out there competing. That's how I want to do it. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I've done, like, obviously going from white to blue. Do you know what I mean? I was competing blue right through to purple. I was competing. And obviously purple, now it seems to be, because of my age as well, do you know what I mean? When I come out for a competition, it's a novelty thing. It's no, I'm no longer looking to be a world champion. Do you know what I mean? I'm no longer looking to be fucking the top of my game. Do you know what I mean? I just want to be as good as I can be. So when I come out for like a Jits comp or anything like that, it's purely because, do you know what I mean? I want to go out and just have some fun. Do you know what I mean? And just take the piss out of some people. Do you know what I mean? And that's the only reason I do competition now. But I still get out there. When I put my mind to it, I'll still get out there. Am I going to be fucking a world champion black belt? Probably not, right? Probably not. But do I want to be that person? Yeah, of course I do. But it's so that's, I mean, the hobbyist and the competition guy. Do you know what I mean? It's trying to separate the both. Do you know what I mean? And keep both of them sweet at the same time. Because then the competition guy will be looking at the hobbyist saying, how did he get a blue belt? When I'm out there competing all the time, how did I not get a blue belt? Do you know what I mean? But like in any gym, there's guys in the gym that have never competed that are better than the guys that compete.
It's two different animals, that a hobbyist and a competition player.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to what's the reasons the guys are in the gym in the first place. Like, if you're in there and you want to compete, you're seeing all the time now with guys getting held back at grades. You've seen it. The easiest example for me to state from Scottish point of view would be Shea. Like, Shea is winning worlds at blue, purple, brown and black, and he purposely held back on belts so he could win them at their levels. As a blue belt, he was fucking everybody up. He's so far ahead of everybody else in Scotland.
Almost made history as well, James.
Yeah.
Almost did the Grand Slam. So.
Unbelievable. So you get into the gym. I remember seeing him in the gym as a blue belt, and then you've got guys who they're working 9 to 5 and they're in the gym 2 or 3 nights a week because they love jiu-jitsu probably just as much as Shea. They've got commitments. It means they can't train as much as Shea. They've got no aspirations. They travel in the world and fucking sleeping in Airbnbs to compete. They just want to get better at jiu-jitsu. So the rates of progression is different, and the reason that they're training in the first place is completely different. But that guy who's training 3 nights a week starts out of shape, gets himself in shape. You can see his game starting to form. He's confident for the bottom. He knows what he's supposed to be doing in every position. You can see his defence starting to form, and then you can see him looking for opportunities to attack. So, like, you can give him a blue belt. Do you know what I mean? He's put the mat time in, and he can hold his own with other blue belts. That's fair enough. Whereas if you try and compare that to a competition player, there's a load. Like, any of the guys in the UK that are doing well, like, would have probably been smashing the black belts at blue and purple, like, easily. Even guys like Blair Hamilton and stuff now, like, just guys that are doing jiu-jitsu twice a day, every day, putting everyone else on the back burner, and viewing it as potentially a career. That they're two different animals, and that has to be taken into account when you're thinking about grading them. And most of the guys, the guys I've been around that are competition players, they don't give a fuck about belts. They care less about belts than the guys that are training 3 nights a week, who probably just want to get the belt so they can tell their pals in the pub type of thing. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah. No, you're definitely right. I mean, as I say, that you see it in the gym. I see it all the time. Competition guys, they never care about the belts. They never care about it at all. Do you know what I mean? And they never care. And the thing is, they go into competition and they could be coming up against a purple, a brown, or a black belt, and they don't even care what belt that person is either, because they're like, no, I'm going to go in and I'm a blue belt, a purple belt, whatever, and I'm going to go in and fuck this guy up. Do you know what I mean? So they've got they don't really give a toss about the belt at all. And the belt, a lot of people say the belt's just there to hold your trousers up, but there's some people that'll say that, but then when they go up the road, they'll be complaining, "Oh, I never got my belt because of whatever. This guy got it. He's a hobbyist, or this guy got it." And do you know what I mean? I've won 5 gold medals, and he's never even competed. Do you know what I mean? So there's always that complaining. How do you please everybody, James? How do you please everybody? Can you?
No, no, you can't. But you just make it clear to them at the start. Look, you're in this for different reasons. Then again, I'm quite firm with this. Like, there's guys on our mat that will never be black belts, unfortunately. And it's just about putting time in. But if a hobbyist he can spare 3-4 hours a week, and he puts 4 hours a week of good training in, like, he's not just fucking on the mat. It's like deliberate practice. He's in with a purpose, and you can see him getting better. You can see his game taking shape and stuff like that. And it's over a period of time as well, because you know what it's like. Sometimes you can come in and you're fucking absolutely flying, and then other nights you come in and you're just dog shit, and you just get beat up. So it's like you can't judge them on this. It's just on an average over a period of time, and you're like, right, you can have that belt. Whereas the competition guys in general, I find you have to speak to them a wee bit more. Like, you need to be like, what have you got coming up competition wise? You've seen this before where we've held guys back for a belt because he's entered a competition in 3 months at maybe a level, and you're like, I'm going to give you this brown belt, but you've entered this, the German Open in November, so what we'll do is we'll hang back, and then you get at your and stuff like that. But they guys, I think, generally are much more aware of their own game, and the direction they're taking their game in, and how they're approaching competitions and their process to winning matches. And the hobbyist guys obviously don't have that same time. They're just doing jiu-jitsu for the sake of doing jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. But it is difficult, man. You'll always get the competition guys. Generally, I think have got less ego. They're just want to compete, and that's it. And the ego and the problems generally comes with the hobbyists who are just not accelerating or learning at the same speed. And again, it just goes back to that. The mats don't lie. If the guys think they're ready for a purple belt, I'll just put them with a group of purple belts, and let me see how you go with them, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
And if they smash you, then you're maybe not ready for purple belt. Do you know what I mean? But or not it's smash, but if they can't hold their own weight, then other things like just having conversations with them, or even asking them to teach. Just show me something like some kind of knowledge of this art, and because some people can't always carry stuff out physically, especially when you start getting, like, I'm noticing this more as I get older. I'm less athletic than I was in my 20s, whereas in my 20s and stuff, my game was totally based on speed. I'm always been pretty light, whereas now it's like more slowing everything down and controlling, and it's a natural progress there. But you're never going to be able to please anybody. But I think for me, I like my guys to have a bit of knowledge about the sport and the art. You know what I mean? I'll at least try and tell them what you're trying to do, even if you can't physically do it against somebody younger and bigger and stronger than you. Try and explain to me why that's breaking down and what it is you're actually trying to achieve there. But again, it's the grade's such an individual and a personal thing. You shouldn't be bothered with what fucking belt the guy next to you is. It's not to do with you. Like, who cares? It's their belt, not yours. Like, for me, if I got belts just because everybody else was getting them, I would have been offended. I want the belts on merit and on the fact that I've been working and developing stuff and looking at it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Final thing, James. I mean, and we see gyms popping up all the time. Do you know what I mean? And or not popping up all the time. We see gyms where you can get a belt quicker, and people know I can go to this gym and I'll get a belt in fucking a year. Do you know what I mean? Or if I go to a Grip House or a Marcos higher level, I might get that same belt in 3 years or 4 years or whatever. Do you know what I mean? How do we stop that? I mean, don't get me wrong, the community tends to share a lot more now, so we're a little bit more savvy, but it doesn't stop people thinking, do you know what I mean, that's maybe at your gym and saying, oh, well, fuck, I've been a blue belt under James now for 4 years. Do you know what I mean? If I go to wherever, I know I'll get my purple belt in 6 months or a year. How do we stop that?
Can't, unfortunately. There's no like a trading standards with it.
Should there be some kind of... Do you know what I mean?
There should be, aye. I remember being a blue and a purple belt and finding out about fake black belts and going to their gym. Like back in the day, we used to go, we'd be like 4 or 5 as would jump in the car and we'd go, and you'd be like, 20 minutes in, you'd be like, it's fucking not a black belt. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've done this like for years.
Yeah.
We used to go on internet forums where people would out these guys. Like, this guy's claiming he's a black belt. He's 21-year-old. He can't roll because he's got a sore neck. But do you know what I mean? Like, and we used to turn up at all these gyms and just be like, we'd just say to them, like, where did you get your black belt? Who gave you that belt? Who gave you it? And unfortunately now there's so many people doing it where you can't control it, where it used to be really easy. You could ask about lineage and all that stuff and check it. And you could always just go back to somebody and go to who gave them a belt and find out. But there's, like everyone else, it's so popular, there's money involved in it. There is some guys out there that shouldn't be anywhere near teaching. Unfortunately, they're pushing out belts that they shouldn't be given. Again, that one kind of IBJJF guideline about not being able to promote black belts until you're a second degree black belt, so you've sat on your belt for 6 years. That's one of the only things I like about the IBJJF. I think it's a great guideline. Because you will get guys out there, and we all know them, who are buying belts. They're going to Brazil and coming back. They bought one at the fucking airport on the way back. And then dishing out belts left, right and centre. And it's just diluting the whole art. And again, the thing that made it so special at the start was that the standards that were preserved. Initially, when you came across a black belt, they were like decent. They were going to put it on you. They were going to teach you, and you could feel that straight away. And now it's like we get guys visiting, and they'll have any colour belt on, and you're just like, right, they're exceptional. They're brilliant. Blue, purple, brown, black, and then you'll get guys coming in, and you're like, where the fuck did you get that belt? And it's everywhere. I think it's widespread, but it's very hard to police, obviously.
Yeah. What about the one thing that I kind of laugh at is and again, it's probably a legit thing, but the seminars. You know the seminars that come to Scotland, the big seminars, and people get go there, and it'll be the first time they've ever been to that particular seminar, and then they'll get a blue belt at the seminar.
I hate it.
Yeah.
We so all our belts are given with the guide that you're on the mat with. So all my guys are graded because I see them like every night of the week. How are you meant to see progression in somebody when they bring you in for a seminar once a year?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's pointless. Again, I was involved in that at the start. I think we went to a Hoyce Gracie seminar in 2001, and he gave a bunch of blue belts out, and there was guys there who probably deserved a blue belt at the time, but there was guys who were like, what the fuck are we doing with this? Didn't even know where to buy a blue belt at that point in time. And it's still going on, 2024, and you've still got guys purposely bringing people over for seminars, knowing that they'll give that guy taking the seminar a couple £1,000, but I'm guaranteed a belt here. And it's
they're charging 100, 150 quid a seminar. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, they're booking a nice big hall, right? But they're charging 100, 150 quid a seminar. And you could be a guy from a different gym, a completely different gym, and you'll still get graded to a blue belt. Do you know what I mean?
It's pointless.
And that's completely different from an affiliation, though. So, like, you were with SBG. If you couldn't give someone a brown belt because you were still you were your first degree black or whatever, you could call someone up and go, look, he's a brown, I can't do it.
Yeah.
That's a different story, isn't it? You know, whereas
that's different. Yeah.
Someone going, we need a purple belt, come over. That's totally different, isn't it?
We have that with Rio Grappling Club with Roberto Atala. So we started bringing him. He tours Europe, and he came to Scotland in 2003, I think, for like 6 months. So we ended up underneath him. But again, he wasn't giving out belts when he came here. He'd come over and teach, and then go away. And then he came back and gave Gary and Paul their black belts. But all of the black belts that have came under them has been directly Gary and Paul. And going back to the 2 year at black belt thing, my first black belt was Danny Gray, but when he got his black belt, I was still a first degree, so I went to my instructors, Gary and Paul. Same affiliation thing, dude. And I was like, he's ready for this belt, he's excellent. Everybody knew he was ready for it, and they've gave him the belt and stuff like that, mate. So the affiliation is generally a bit different. Do you know what I mean? Like Roberto was always there. See if I need to phone him about something, I could phone him and I could ask him stuff, and if I needed any guidance, I could ask him stuff, or I was seeing him. Like, it wasn't like he was coming there and then one day then buggering off. Like, even still, he's in his 50s now, and he's touring Europe this year. He's in Scotland for 3 weeks and stuff like that. But he just kind of let us do our own thing. After a while, he'd come over and train, and that was it. But he wasn't coming over here and promoting everybody. He'd just come. He would teach. Again, we were getting access to like a 3rd degree black belt in 2005 and stuff, when there wasn't a lot of guys about, and he was pretty cool with it. But I had 2011, I think, when I was a purple belt. I had a guy message me. Basically, found out I was changing gyms, so I'd put something on. It was probably Bebo or something fucking thing at the time, but I'd put something about the new gym, we're going into this space, and I had a guy message me saying, if you come under my affiliation, I'll bump you up to brown belt straight away. You'll be a black belt. And I was like, you've never seen me train. Like, I'm not a brown belt, because I'm not ready for fucking brown belt now. Do you know what I mean? But just even wee things like that, like guys trying to get you to move affiliations or bring them in for seminars and promising you these, I'll fast track you to this belt and stuff like that. And it's just it just dilutes everything, like we said at the start. It's just you try to preserve something that was kind of special at one point, with the grades being different from traditional martial arts, and these guys are just trying to rip the arse at it for money.
Yeah.
The real scary thing though is that people only send that message if it's worked before, you know, like anything in life, you know, and to get money out of someone, because like obviously I don't know massively, but some affiliations charge like a monthly fee to fly the banner and stuff like that. He's going, are you greedy enough for a belt to give me some money however often? And it's potentially worked before as well, you know, and that's the really upsetting thing when, like we've said multiple times, we love the sport and we want it to prosper. We don't want a bunch of like, and it's what happened to karate really, isn't it? You know, people, you've got 14-year-olds running around with black belts, you know, and it's 9-year-olds and stuff, and that could be where it goes if we don't learn the lessons of other sports and other martial arts, isn't it?
Yeah, see, the thing is, in Scotland, we've got about, and again, at last count, we've got about 80 gyms in Scotland, all teaching martial arts, jiu-jitsu or MMA and stuff like that, all related to jiu-jitsu, right? So at last count, there was 80 gyms, and there's a few gyms in Scotland where there's that question mark over the grading, where did they buy that belt? Do you know what I mean? And do you know what I mean? I don't mind saying it. Everybody fucking knows in Scotland. Do you know what I mean? It's the same like you go to like the northeast of England. It's the same there. It's the same anywhere in the UK. There's a question mark over out of 80 gyms, a few gyms in Scotland where there is a question mark. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to say who. Do you know what I mean? Everybody fucking's got their own opinion. Everybody's got their own opinion. We all know one, right? But everybody's got their own opinion on their belts and so on. Do you know what I mean? I know a lot of the gyms, and a lot of the people that I have contact with are all legit black belts. Do you know what I mean? Everybody
the
that
cream
I
rises
have
to
contact,
the top, doesn't it?
yeah, and all
the
these
cream
guys
rises to the top, and you all know the big names, don't you? You all know the names of the guys who's winning stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where the competition aspect, what we talked about before, really comes into play. If you've got a gym and you've got a bunch of blue belts and they go and tear up a blue belt comp, yes, you've got a bunch of blue belts, you know, and flying that flag for your team, that then pays dividends in itself, because, well, why do you want to go to a gym that you'll be paid a belt when you can go to a gym that you'll get a belt and you'll win?
Yeah. James, couple of quick fire questions for you, right?
Yeah.
Who in Scotland should be a black belt?
Mark McQueen. Still just got his brown, didn't he? So
yeah, I think he's a year at Brown. I think he's about a year at Brown. It probably makes no difference. That takes me on to my next question. Is submission grappling, is it no-gi jiu-jitsu, or is it submission grappling? And should you be graded as a no-gi guy?
Definitely not a belt, but a coloured rash guard I think is fine. I think you need to keep some kind of tradition with the gi for me with the belt. Again, I look at jiu-jitsu for a different lens for most people, because for me it's just all fighting. The thing that drew me to at the start was to help me for MMA. So it was like, I need to learn this. These guys are really good at the system is really good for beating people up, or if I need to use it outside. So I can see the no-gi sports side of jiu-jitsu and even the gi stuff moving further and further away from the ability to fight outside in the street, which is kind of what attracted me in the first place. I also think there's a good quote. I'm not even sure who said it. It might have been Chris Hoyt or something, but it was basically like, if you need a gi, your jiu-jitsu doesn't work without a gi, you don't know jiu-jitsu. If your jiu-jitsu doesn't work without strikes, you don't know jiu-jitsu. So for me, it has to be, I want your jiu-jitsu to work regardless of whether you're wearing a jacket, a rash guard, or some cunts attacking you outside a pub. Do you know what I mean? It needs crossover. And that's the way I've always kind of looked at it. With the belts and stuff, no rash guard and shorts and a belt. Just wear a purple rash guard. I like beginner, intermediate, and advanced for no gi fine for me. Purple belt and up is advanced. Yeah. Beginner's a white belt, and then intermediate probably in that grey zone, blue, before you're ready for purple.
Yeah. Do you get that little sick feeling, James, when you'll see a picture of someone promoted with a belt in their no-gi, in their spats, and they're holding it either side and they're proud as punch? Do you get that sick feeling?
I actually prefer Danaher's guys with a knife. I think like just give him a knife. I'm like, why has he got a fucking belt? We had to do that recently.
Hold these spats up, obviously.
Hold these spats up. Big ass spats, man.
It's not right, man. But
we should do braces, coloured braces for you for your spats.
Do you know what I understand? Like, because obviously we know 10th Planet, right? 10th Planet have obviously got a belt structure based on their no-gi program. So we know that that's the way they do it. But as I say, more and more now, people are cashing in on no-gi, because no-gi is fashionable just now. It's fashionable. It's the in thing. Everybody wants to do it. Do you know what I mean? And you got guys turning up for grading days who only wear a gi for fucking one picture, and it's that picture with the blue belt. Do you know what I mean? And they're told you're not getting a blue belt until you put a gi on. Do you know what I mean? And to me, man, do you know what I mean? And there's people I train with that have only put a gi on once, that have been given a fucking belt, right? And it's people I train with. Do you know what I mean? So, and yeah, I mean, I think it's shit. I used to say to them, do you know what I mean? Like, you'll never get a belt. You need to be training in the gi. Nah, I'll never wear a gi. Do you know what I mean? I'll only wear it for the picture. That's it. Do you know what I mean? So,
I don't know your guys.
Yeah, they're good guys. They're fucking awesome competitors.
They two martial arts or sports are moving further and further away from each other. Like I went into a class last week when Danny was teaching the Wednesday night, and he was teaching like squid guard stuff, and I'm like, right, that's completely different from what I was teaching on Thursday night at the no-gi session. Do you know what I mean? It looks like two different arts to a certain extent when you go that deep into it with the gi and the no-gi stuff. But it's a hard one, that one.
Yeah. But there's Scott Ramsey just saying, promoting in the no-gi with a BJJ belt. Don't get him started. Do you know what I mean? Because, and that seems to be guys who are, like, we talk about old school and new school. I talk about old school and new school all the time. I came in, I started training in 2014, but it was very much traditional. When I was starting at Gracie Barra teach a very traditional style of jiu-jitsu, a traditional rule set and all that kind of stuff. So me, I was able to take a lot of stuff from the traditional side, and like old school guys. A lot of the people that I kind of know in jiu-jitsu is all guys that have been in jiu-jitsu for years. Do you know what I mean? And have an old school look on jiu-jitsu, whereas the new guys that are coming in don't have that same, I don't know, they don't have that same thoughts that go through their head. They don't think about jiu-jitsu the way I would think about it. You would think about it, James.
It is like the newer guys are obviously seeing stuff with the no-gi stuff's obviously a lot more popular. You're seeing like Gordon Ryan and stuff like that blowing up, and the events all look a lot cooler than what you're seeing in the gi. And it definitely seems to attract like younger guys to it and stuff like that. Again, I went through a spell when I never put the gi on for a bit, and I was doing nothing but MMA for a bit.
Yeah.
And then when I went back to the gi, it was like I was behind. I was like, I need to fucking get back up to speed weight and stuff like that. And as I'm getting older, it's my balance of gi to no gi is completely changing towards the gi. And it just suits me as I'm not as athletic as I was. The guys I'm rolling with are all younger and faster, and I can just fucking grab a hold of the lapel and slow them down. But it's two completely different sports when you look at it, and you can see even more now with the influence of wrestling with the no-gi stuff and stuff like that. But again, I try and keep an open mind, but it's all a bit an effective way to control somebody if you need to control them, and basically either submit them or damage them to a point where if I need to do it outside them or on a sporting context, it can make me win a sporting contest. But if I need to do it outside, it's going to help me win that fucking confrontation if need be.
Yeah. Final question then, James. Who's your top three in Scotland?
I think Shea is head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah.
I'll put Rick Young in just because he was the first and he's still doing it. I've got
legend, absolute legend, the Godfather.
And then, Christ knows, personal note, probably Cammy Donnelly. Just again, it's hard to pick a third guy. You should have given me 5, but I'll go personal.
We'll go 5. Give me your 5.
Even harder. 5. Right, give me.
So you got Shea, Rick, Cammy.
I'll put Mark McQueen in there as well. Again, just because of what he's doing, and some of the big dudes he's putting away are decent. And then my last guy is probably maybe not the most technical grappler in Scotland, but on the night he turns up, probably Stevie Ray. Like he's the only guy I know that can compete MMA and focus completely on MMA, but still rock up and win matches at Polaris and Grapple Fest and stuff like that against guys that are doing nothing but jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And it's a mentality thing more than a technique thing with him. He's just been like, I'm going to make them fight, and if they can't fight, their jiu-jitsu doesn't work.
Aye. Nah, I mean, I had a different 5. Well, Shea, definitely, 100%. Right. Rick Young, of course, the godfather of Scottish jiu-jitsu. Do you know what I mean? 100%. Cammy Donnelly, massive fan of Cammy Donnelly. Absolutely love Cammy. Cammy's been doing it for years. Do you know what I mean? Craig McIntosh, Spider Mop, and Stevie Ray. That was my 5. Do you know what I mean?
I can't pick Craig and just pick all my own guys there. Everybody knows how dangerous Craig is. Like if you give him a sniff at a submission, he's going to pounce on it, and his competition record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Again, he's beat some of the best guys about.
Yeah. Do you know, I'll probably get stick because I never added Mark McQueen in there, but Mark McQueen's great. But as I said, Mark McQueen's, everybody's got to remember he's only been doing this for 5 years. Do you know what I mean? Like these guys in that 5 have been doing this for, I wouldn't even imagine a combined amount of years, but they're all 10 plus years training. Do you know what I mean? So there's guys who are going to be great. I mean, you talk about, like, you mentioned Blair Hamilton is going to be one of the greats. I think he's going to be up there. Do you know what I mean? Mark McQueen will be up there as well. But as of yet, I mean, to only be in the game for 5 years, I don't know. Still a bit early, but he's got all the attributes. He's definitely got all the attributes. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, definitely. But that's my top 5. The only difference being me adding in Mop. Do you know what I mean? I think Mop's fucking unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? Definitely unbelievable. Unbelievable to watch. So yeah, there we go. Top 5. Alfie, you don't know anybody in Scotland. I mean, you're one of the most hated guys in Scotland. Do you know what I mean?
I am. That's exactly it. And you know what it is? I absolutely adore Scotland as well. That's the worst thing. Like, for my birthday a couple of weeks ago, I just drove to Scotland because I was like, I want to be there. Like, I had nothing to do, so I just drove to Scotland. So like, I love it up there. You know, Edinburgh's like my favourite city in the world. I've trained with Ben out of CVA in there.
You should head over to High Level. Do you know what I mean?
I definitely will do when I'm on my travels, because I always, whenever I go anywhere for like a couple of nights, I'll pack some stuff. I always pack some stuff, and I always, again, talk about traditional. I'll drop the guys a message and I'll be like, can I come down before just rocking up? Because I wouldn't like it myself, like, if someone just rocked up to your gym, like, it's courtesy, isn't it? But yeah, I do like to rock up to different gyms, and I do like to get involved, because it gives you that eye opening, like we were saying about levels before. I recently took Kyle out of our gym to evolve Josh Swinston's gym, and it gives you an eye opener of where your level is, because you yourself in your gym. You train with your same people, they know your game, and it's very hard to understand what level you really are at. But yeah, so when it came to the Scottish guys, I had Craig McIntosh up there as well. I nodded profusely as soon as you said the name. So yeah, that's right. And Mark as well. I've watched Mark do his stuff when I've been around competitions with him, and my God, what a fearsome man he is.
Mate, he's a big softy, man. Honestly, he's a big softy, absolute softy. Do you know what I mean? So he just, I don't know, man. You need to feed him in the morning, mate. Otherwise, he's angry. Do you know what I mean? He's one of them guys. He needs fed. Otherwise, he's fucking angry. That's why when we send him into competition, we don't feed him first, man.
Feed him. Yeah. Just throw him in.
But he will be. Mark definitely will be up there. But as of yet, he's not had enough time for me. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't have enough time in his game yet. Do you know what I mean?
How old is he now as well? Do we know how old he is?
Matt's about 27, I think. So he's a good age. He's a very, very good age. So
he's also, for somebody, I had only seen him bits and pieces of him before, and I always just assumed he was just a big strong guy, because I've seen 100 big strong guys in all years of coaching, but he came to some of your sessions. For the size and stuff, he's super technical, that dude. And the other thing it shouldn't be a surprise, because of what he'd done before with the powerlifting stuff, but his work ethic for somebody that size, because generally big guys like that can be lazy. They can get away with being big and strong and stuff like that, but he almost approaches it like he's an 80-kilo guy. Do you know what I mean? His game is so much more than his physicality. I was mega impressed with him when he came to us to train and stuff like that. And then again, even his attitude coming and jumping on the mat with our guys and wanting to learn for everybody. But you can see it when travelling about and stuff like that. And I think that's why he's going to go on and be very successful, because he's got that combination of just athleticism and physicality.
Yeah.
And then he's filling in the blanks with knowledge and technique and stuff there as well, and then work ethic. And if you can get somebody with those three, even if you get somebody with two at the three of them, they can generally do pretty well. And I think he's got the freedom in abundance. So he's whatever 5 years in, whatever what he does the next 5 years, it's worth. I just like watching what he's doing now, because you're like, holy fuck, look how far he's gone, how quick. And it's testament to his selling and the guys that he's working with.
But ADCC's got him ranked at number 10 in the world. So they've got him ranked at number 10. Do you know what I mean? So, which under ADCC. But again, ADCC is not fucking jiu-jitsu. Do you know what I mean? That's what you've got to remember. Alfie, ADCC's not jiu-jitsu. Obviously, I do a lot of stuff with MOP. And obviously the guys at ADCC Scotland, and it's definitely not jiu-jitsu. It's submission grappling. Do you know what I mean? Or it's I don't even think it is submission grappling. It's submission wrestling, submission fighting. It's called. So it's not even fucking grappling.
You talk about that though, but I watched an interview with him before, and he was I'm probably misquoting, but he was talking about some wrestling guys getting a bit. I mean, some jiu-jitsu guys getting a bit hurt that they were getting out wrestled and pinned, and he went, get better at wrestling, and that's it, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like, and that's what keeps our sport sort of grounded, And going back to Mark McQueen as well, your yardstick of 10+ years, he'll be 32 in 5 years' time, where he's got that 10-year experience.
Yeah,
5 years is a long time, and if he's already at that level now, and the rate of progression, it obviously drops off, but I think it's big things to come, and I think he'll be closer at the top of that list than you imagine,
Yeah, mate, he fucking shouldn't, mate. His head's too big as it is, man. He doesn't need a bigger head, man. Do you know what I mean? So, but nah, he's going to do awesome. We can't wait to see him at the trials. Sorry, not the trials. When he heads over to Vegas, we can't wait to see what he does over there. So, so guys, there we go then. James Doolan, high level. Absolute pleasure as always chatting to you, James.
Thanks, mate.
Great hearing your insight. I know that you wanted to talk about this for a while and give your opinion. Do you know what I mean? So it is brilliant to hear your kind of insight on in regards to your promotions and how you do it. Do you know what I mean? And obviously your man Alfie Scott Ramsey jumping in with a few comments himself. So Scott very much that old school traditional way as well. So that's the way it should be. But do you know what? People want to make money off this shit. Do you know what I mean? So, but they always get caught out. They always get found out. So, all you need to do is have a look at Reddit. Just type in your favorite gym's name into Reddit. Do you know what I mean? And you'll hear all about them. Do you know what I mean?
The cream again, though, the cream rises to the top, and you'll type in a gym's name, and you'll see their records and what they've done, and then you go, yeah, they're a legit gym. You know.
Yeah. The good thing is
there's no trust pilot like we were seeing before, you know.
No.
But there is,
but
you know. You
the
type
BJJ
it in, you see
Underground.
them all.
Yeah, the BJJ Underground. Anybody wants to know about a gym? So you're banned, right? If you want to know about a jiu-jitsu gym, just go on to the Facebook, onto the UK BJJ Underground, in the search bar, and just type in a gym name, and it'll give you all the information that you need to know about that gym, and that's the good and the bad. And I'd say there's a few bad. So, but yeah, that's an absolute pleasure, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Obviously, hearing us talk shit about the gradings. As I said, it was an absolute pleasure. James, I'll catch you on June the 1st. Do you know what I mean? I'll see you at Cassius. I'm looking forward to getting over. They asked me, Patrick met me at Cage Warriors and said, why have you not came to Cassius yet? And I was like, because you haven't asked me. Like, nobody had ever asked me at all. Because normally they would come and say, oh, Stu, you want to do this? But then nobody asked me about Cassius at all. So
expected you to turn up.
Well, he said, we would expect you to turn up, but you need to be invited. You don't just fucking turn up. There needs to be some kind of conversation. So I'm going to June the 1st. We're looking forward to seeing another absolute belter.
Dale's put together a really good card, man. Some really good fights on it, and you'll be impressed with his setup and stuff like that and the way it runs. It's decent for a kind of newer show. It's quite impressive.
Is this in the same place, or is it a different place?
This is in Montrose Town Hall, I think, this one.
So this is where it was going to be originally, before the bad weather?
And then he moved it to Piper Dam, so he's back there, and it went really well the last time, I think. He had 11 fights. It started at 7, we were out for 10. Some real good fights, and the same this time, I think. There's a couple real good amateur fights on that card with Youssef Versig, who's maybe the best amateur in Scotland now. He's fighting an Irish kid called Julian Renault for Chris Fields.
He had a hard fight last night at Budo. Obviously took some damage. Do you know what I mean? So
tends to be the way with him, I think.
yeah, took a bit of damage. Do you know what I mean? I think he talked about he underestimated the opponent. Right. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously it was a bit harder than they thought it was going to be. So, but he looked like he took a bit of damage. But fingers crossed, he's good for June the 1st. Fingers crossed. Do you know what I mean? So, June the 1st is going to be awesome. We're going to see some great fights. Cassius, anybody want to know all about Cassius? I hope I'm saying that right. Cassius, because I know that.
I think it's an Italian word for the gloves that the gladiators used to wear. It's a leather strap with studs on it. The gladiators used to put on.
Right.
Some history.
Because I know nobody knows how to say it. Not one person knows how to say it. So we all say it different ways. But yeah, listen, I look forward to seeing you there. Alfie, listen, we'll catch up soon again. We'll need to figure out what we're going to talk about the next time. So I'm enjoying talking shit.
Oil checks, I reckon. Yeah, I reckon we'll talk about oil checks, because for me, it's minimum of 3 fingers. That was 4, but I take 4 because I'm a pro. Even though I'm only a purple belt, I'm pro at that.
That's how Scott gives out belts, man. Depending on how many fingers you get up.
Exactly.
But no, listen, absolute pleasure, Alfie. Thank you very much again. And yeah, listen, we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye, mate.